Hello everybody, I'm Audio, and this game is Daibanchou, or Big Bang Age, as it is also known. I'll be referring to it as either, based on my attitude. This is the title screen of the game. It serves as the load screen, the save screen, the system screen, the intermission screen between turns. You see it a lot, and it's kind of weird for it to be the title screen as well. It's also where you start a new game. Let me change a setting here. It doesn't want to save that for me, so there we are. And here we go. There's a lot to explain about this game, and it moves along at the beginning a lot faster than Sengoku Rants does. So I actually run out of space to talk about what I want to. But to start out, this is your main character, Zanmaroga. This is basically you. He's the Rants of this game. There are a couple of things I want to clear in this first video. This first video is mostly all dialogue as well, so you know that. The combat comes in later parts. And I'll be doing this entire Let's Play, or walkthrough, whichever you'd prefer to call it. I'll be doing it live. I'm actually playing it while I'm recording it. I'll be drawing parallels between this game and Sengoku Rants periodically. Though, if you haven't played Sengoku Rants, you won't, hurt for that. But it's easier for me to do that, and it makes some sense to do that. This game, Daibanchou, was made by Alisoft in 2003, so it's an older game than Sengoku Rants. But, I don't want to say there are similarities between the playstyles, because really there aren't any. You can compare the two rather well, but the playstyles are very, very, very different, and you'll see that as we go on here. But, yeah, another thing that I like to point out right now is that Zanmaroga, the main character of this game, his goal is to conquer Japan, and I really have to explain this aggressively, because it took me a very long time to get it into my head. Like, Zanmaroga wants to conquer Japan. You want to conquer Japan. As you're playing this game, as you start out, you want to conquer Japan. That's your goal, They don't really make it seem important enough. Alisoft doesn't. So, you start out the game and you take over a school. That's the first segment of the game that we'll be doing here shortly. And you conquer a school. Okay. Your goal, if you're playing this game for the first time, is to conquer the school, You want to take the school, and then it steps it up. It's like, let's take over a whole city. And you're like, okay, let's do it. Let's take over the city. And then it steps it up, and then you're taking more cities in Japan, which is cool, but it makes the game harder to understand at the beginning. It seems so, humorous, You're a student, you're a bunch of kids, you're taking over a school, and then you want to take over Japan? It's asinine, and, don't get me wrong, I like the story more or less, and I like the plot of the game. I like the style it takes, and I like the game a lot overall, but they don't explain the situation enough to you at the beginning. If you wanted to understand what you're doing right now, you'd have to play the last part of the game to fully grasp what's going on here. And it's kind of hard. I lost a couple of friends trying to play this game right away at the beginning because they didn't understand it. They didn't really like the combat. They just kind of... It's a really rough entry. It's a hard game to get into. Daibanchou is, and it was for me too. And the game itself is just hard. It's a hard game because they don't really explain a lot to you, and I don't hold that against the game, but I can understand how other people would. So more on that in a bit. I don't want to get too sidetracked here. I spent enough time talking about that. Roga, basically, he comes to this school. Actually, I do need to explain another thing. Students in this game are more powerful. They have B powers, so to speak. It's not like X-Men where every person has their own unique thing. Some of them do, but more or less the game is vague about B powers. And people like Zanmaroga, well, as far as you know right now, are just stronger than usual. They're just abnormally powerful. People with B abilities in this game rule, They are the the people doing things. There are teachers in this school, but they don't have abilities, and they can't control the students. That's why this school is like it is. There's a person running the school called the Bancho of this school, you know? He's a Bancho. Roga becomes a Bancho after you take over the school. You know, leaders are Banchos in this game, and they're really powerful, and they're powerful people with, you know, powerful B abilities and special students. That's kind of what they're talking about right now. Hibiki Seine and Zanmaroga are more or less discussing the situation. They're talking about things like organizations like the Student Union, and they mention a group called the PGG, but you don't understand what those two groups are until way later in the game. So it's a little confusing. But yeah, you have to look at the game and really understand what they're talking about. You can't be like, oh, we're kids in a school taking over Japan, and expect to even care, because it doesn't work. You'll learn that as you play it and as it goes on. Or if you're just watching these videos, as the videos continue. Hibiki Seine is the first other character you meet, really. I mean, aside from that wolf in the opening scene, who we'll see more of later. Roga likes Seine because, you know, well, you can see it in her actions here. She's the president of the school. She stands up for her other students. She takes responsibility for her actions, and he likes that. So he basically asks Seine to be his girl, and that's something important about Roga in this game. All of the hentai scenes, all the hardcore anime porn that you love, featuring Zanmaroga, is the interest of both parties. He never rapes anybody. All of the sex scenes that Roga has are, you know, they're willing, they're happy, they're good. He doesn't have any well, he has a bad one way later on featuring him and another woman, but they both agreed to it, you know. He's a totally good guy, and that's something I'd like to say here. He's the opposite of Rance, basically. They're nothing alike at all. Rance and Roga are not similar at all, other than that they are a protagonist in a game, you know. There are 6 heroines in this game. Hibiki Seine is one of them. You'll meet the other 5. They're not even mandatory. You don't have to meet all 5, but you can. And you will in these videos here. This is Jinai Heita. He is a badass. Arguably the coolest guy in the game. And I say arguably because anything that is proclaimed cool is proclaimed that by someone's opinion, right? So, anyway, I love Jinai Heita. He's awesome. And he is, you'll see through his actions as well, that he is a completely loyal person. He is a completely good person. And he's just fucking awesome, because no one like that exists in real life. What Jinai Heita is only fictional. And it's just cool. He's just a cool guy. He's the comic relief character of the game, basically. I mean, there are a couple of those. Everybody does some funny stuff, but the tone of the game is mostly serious, I would say. Zanmaroga is not a screw-around kind of guy. I don't know, maybe it's just the way that I interpreted the game, but like Sengoku Rance, it's hard to take much of that game seriously because Rance is the protagonist. In Daibanchou, it's not the case at all. Yeah, I can see this game being taken very seriously if you wanted to. That was also part of my problem getting into it the first time. I didn't take it really seriously, but the plot is ultimately a serious plot. So, you know about that. But this dialogue segment here at the beginning of the game goes on for quite a while, and this executive guy here, it's the generic, I guess, bad guy for the school that you're in right now. He isn't unique. That guy's not unique at all. You'll see more of those. You can recruit those. You fight a lot of them. They're just people. Hibiki Seine is unique. A lot of people have the school uniform on, but she's a unique character. Usually, actually, in about all cases, generic characters don't have eyes. I'm not sure why that is, but as you can see, the executive doesn't have eyes. He's wearing glasses, but he has no face. That happens a lot. So, be aware of that. If they've got a face, they're an important character. How's that go? But Jinai Heita stands up here for, I guess it's his first love interest. I mean, Seine goes along with Roga and becomes Roga's woman, you know? But Heita was interested in her at the beginning of the game. He just, you know, loses to Ryoga. Roga, rather. He just loses to him. But Jinai Heita, as you'll learn, he's a boy wanting to become a man, and he looks for Roga's help to do that, basically. He does everything he can. He pushes himself to the limits to become a true man. That's his whole goal. And people in this game do have character clears. They're referred to as character checks on the wiki, which is invaluable, of course. I'll leave a link to the wiki in the description of the video. I will leave a link to the translation patch in the video and the translator's homepage. I'll also thank the translators in this video. As Daibanchou is being translated, I followed their work, and they really genuinely loved this game. The people who released the English patch for this game really liked it, and it's always nice when that happens. So thank you for translating the game into English. Not an easy feat considering how much extra stuff is in this game. Just like Sengoku Rants, there are a ton of extra features, and in the video I released that said I would be let's playing this, I said that I'd pick characters I thought were most relevant, but that's not really possible. This game allows for a lot more freedom in character choosing, and there are a lot more characters to choose from right at the get-go than in Sengoku Rants. Arguably there's more content, but oh, well, we'll see as it goes on. I don't want to go over that. That new boy introduced, Naruse Yuki, is Jinai Heita's good friend. They've been friends for a long time, and Yuki wields a air pistol kind of thing. I'm not familiar with it. I've never heard of something like that, but that's his weapon of choice. Yuki is a really feminine name for a guy. I guess the two U's in there throw it off, right? Well, we'll see. And this is your crew at the beginning of the game. You get Roga, Heita, Seine, and Yuki. Those are your 4 people. When combat starts, those are the 4 people you've got to work with, you know? You get more really quick, you know? It's not 4 for long. And I don't know, before you leave the school section of the game, you'll get, I don't want to exaggerate, I'd say like 15. Maybe that's wrong. I don't know, but you'll get a good group of people, and that's what you want to do in this game. You'll want to recruit generic people. You'll want to get a lot of people. So there you go. Of course, the unique people are the ones you fight with, but this game's got a lot of micromanagement you've got to deal with, like income and law, like maintaining peace in the cities you've conquered way later on. That'll all be introduced to you later, though. You know, I'm getting ahead of myself again, though. To step back, there will be delays between uploads between segments. There are 3 chapters or segments to this game. The first one is the school, the second one is taking over Tokyo, and the third one is taking over Japan. So, you're aware of that. Yeah, but Roga's well known, sort of. He's a strong fighter, and he people know who he is. He's known as the White Fang. People have heard about him, and that's another thing that I should cover. Roga's kind of like affiliated with wolves throughout the game. You know, there was that wolf at the beginning, which that opening segment at the beginning of the game isn't really important. I mean, it's really not. I don't know why it's there. It's not important at all. Kunagi, that wolf, is important, but that scene isn't. So, I don't know. Anyway, he's not a wolf like that other thing. I thought when I first started playing the game, Roga was a wolf, like his companion. I thought he would be able to shapeshift, just because of his attitude, you know? The White Fang, you know, he's associated with wolves. He's friends with a wolf. It just seems like he would have been able to. But I'll clarify that for you guys now, that he's not. I'd also like to comment on his character design. I think he looks cool. You know, I like that face that he has, that attitude that you can tell he has by the way he's drawn. I think that that's cool. I like that a lot. The art style in this game is fairly good. I like it a lot. A lot of the hentai scenes are not fap-worthy. I can't do anything with it personally. I mean, I used Sengoku Rance's content a whole bunch. I will tell you that right now. I haven't used Daibanchou's content even once. And that's just because of my preference, probably. Or maybe my tastes have matured. You know, maybe I need a little more. But, we'll talk more about the hentai sequences in the game later on. They are a lot more frequent in this game than in Sengoku Rance. A lot more frequent. Oh boy. But this is a really great game, and I'm happy that I found it and that I started playing it, so. And I'm assuming a lot of people watching this are going to be like me, and that they did play Sengoku Rance first, and then they found this. Very few people have heard of this game in comparison to Sengoku Rance. Very few people. Less than half, I would say. Is how the numbers stack up. But this game's good. It's worth playing. Definitely an eroge worth playing, because it's got gameplay, you know? Fairly, complex gameplay if you want to get into it, because of the variety. I mean, you've got combat, and then you've got to manage all your stuff, and it's nice seeing both of those put together, and put together well. But, again, I'm getting ahead of myself. There's just a lot to explain, and I'm really chomping at the bit to do that. I want to explain it, but it's tricky, because we're still in this dialogue sequence, which is a long one. Yeah. As far as the other characters go, I don't like Hibiki Seine. She's my least favorite heroine in the game. Out of the 6, she is by far my least favorite, and that's a gigantic bias, because I dislike her character design, and I dislike the, what is it? She's kind of a cliche, you know? She's got, I guess she doesn't have large breasts or anything, but she's well endowed. She's got glasses, she's got long hair, she's kind of nerdy, smart. She's that cliche, she's that character type that's well known. I mean, you watch an anime, you play an eroge, there are always girls like Seine in those games. And it's just not one that I've ever been familiar with, or really liked. Familiar with. Not one that I've liked, you know? It's not my thing. All the other heroines are cool. I like their character designs a lot more. All the heroines have very different character designs, which is important, and it's a good thing. Yeah. We'll meet those quite a ways down the road. Some of them aren't introduced until way late in the game, which is kind of weird, but it happens. But, there's the formal introduction and voice acting. Yeah, that's right. Big Bang Age has voice acting. Everybody has voice acting. The hentai scenes are voiced by the women. Roga doesn't speak in any of them. The other males who take place don't ever speak in any scenes in the game, which really sucks a lot when you're, you know, dealing with, like, the end of the game, the nice CG. The female protagonist is talking to Roga, but Roga's not talking back. He's just, you know, you're reading it. And maybe it's because it's supposed to be you in his shoes, but I don't really like that. I wish that Roga had voice acting. I'll talk more about that later on. I mean, Roga has voice acting in combat and stuff like that. All of them do. Every character in the game does, except the generic ones. So, when I say that, it's like when you win combat, when you lose combat, when you level up, when you increase one of your character's stats, they all have a different dialogue. So that's at least 5 lines of dialogue for every character. That's pretty good. And they're all fairly different. You know, I can tell their voices apart, which is obviously important. So yeah, I appreciate that people have voices in this game. I like it a lot. It's nice listening to them. It's one of those extra touches to the game that is great, you know? Who would complain about that? It's only a good thing. Yeah. Naruse Yuki, I can go over that right now. Zamaroga is a close range unit. Heita is a close range unit. Seine is a mid range unit, and Yuki is a long range unit. I'll explain what those do exactly once we get to combat, but I figured I'd say it now. They all have unique abilities as well, which is important. But again, it's not really worth explaining until you've felt combat or you've seen it. Yeah. So you know. But there you go. Yuki joins. And like I said, Yuki and Heita are friends. So to talk a little bit about character clears, their character clears are kind of related. Every character in the game that has a character clear, Roga doesn't because he's the main guy. But the other three in this scene do. Every character has 5 stars. You need to clear all 5 stars to get their character clear. You don't have to do those stars in a specific order, usually. It's impossible to get Heita's final star without getting 3 stars prior, but those 3 you can get in any order, and the 4th star you can get at any time. So that's how that works. I'm basically just explaining that you don't need to get the stars in a specific order. And all the stars yield a bonus. Like the first star for every character gives 5 HP. Stuff like that. But of course you'll see those things. Some people have really, really, really hard character clears. Like Seine. Hers isn't so much hard, it's just complicated. That's something else that I'll tell you right now. The character clears in this game are not simple at all. Holy fuck. You gotta try hard to get some of these. And, oh man, some of them you only have one chance at. It's really tricky. I mean, you'll see. I'll get the main heroines. Like, for those of you in the know, I'm going with Kunagi's route. I like her route more. I think it feels appropriate. The other character, Senna, I like her route too, but that's something I'm still thinking about, so I won't discuss it now, especially not in the first part. But I'm going to do Kunagi's route, Tenrou Kunagi's route, and I will get her character clear. So you have that. I'm going to try to get other character clears too, but it's really hard to do, and it's also impossible to get everybody in your army's character clears because the game has a hard limit. The final phase of the game ends after 100 turns, and the way the turn system works in this game, you can only talk to 100 people once you get to that point. Like, it's coming up right now, so I'll explain it now, and then I'll end the part. But, see, right now we're in the region phase of the game, which means you can interact with a place in the region, right? So, on the roof you can trigger hard mode. I'll explain the region phase a little bit and what's going on here. But the game goes in sections. It's like region phase, and then conversation phase, and then you can deploy your troops, and then you can attack, and then you defend. And then it's your turn. You can do all of those things in a turn, but only once per turn, and then your turn's over. So I'll show you exactly what I mean right here. You can look around. This is the school, right? Obviously. There's the big building, the school ground, like the field for gym class and shit. And there's the pool, all that stuff. But you go up here, and this is the only floor we control. It's Wolf Fang territory. The 3rd floor is. So you click on it. All of this other stuff is really not important, so I'll explain it later. But then you can do these things here. You can go look through the classroom. Not important. It doesn't do anything. You can check out a book. There's a lot to that, and I'll explain it more later, so I'll save it. But you can also find an ally, and in the school section of the game, you want to find as many allies as possible. That's really important to do. Mostly because they all see Roga as a friend. There are different trust levels in this game, like there were in Sengoku Rants as well. But they actually mean something in this game. And you want to have people who are your friends and who trust you. And that's why you want to recruit students from the school, because they default to that. And it's really helpful. It's another thing in this game that you won't fully understand until the end of the game. So you can fuck yourself over right at the beginning for later on without even knowing. And it's kind of weird that happens, but it does happen. And I'm going to try to explain that stuff to you guys so it doesn't happen to you. I had to restart the game about 5 times because I fucked up so bad so many times. But I'm a lot less intelligent than a normal human being when it comes to these things. So you might not have that problem. This is the conversation phase, and it means just that you talk to somebody. If you talk to Roga, you are Roga, so nothing really happens. He just kind of, says to himself, well, let's see what I can do next, I'm gonna talk to Seiha, just because she's the first person on the list, I guess. Yamazaki is he's the bancho of the school right now. He's not the leader, he's not the principal of the school. He's just the student who took control of it. And he's who we're dethroning, basically. That's the conversation phase. That's where you get most of the character clear stuff done. And usually dialogues are a lot longer than that. Some H scenes come from the conversation phase. A lot of items. More on that later. This is the deployment phase, and this is where a lot of people get fucked on their first playthrough because they're like, okay, how does this work? Oh, there are some enemies here, so let me deploy my guys, and you fight them. But you leave your home territory completely defenseless. Or you won't do anything at all because you're confused how to do it, and you just say end. And then the enemy troops go into your floor, take it over, game over. That happened to me, that happened to a friend of mine as well. But what you want to do is take your guys and deploy them a bit here. Zanma Roga is really, really strong. He's going to be able to solo all 3 of those people on that floor. Seiha is really weak at the beginning of the game, but she levels up quick and becomes a great unit. Heita, he's kind of average throughout the game. And Narasayuki is really, really weak, but he has a very good ability that I'll go over later. So I just put him on the floor I control, and then I end it. There we go. And then you can attack a floor. I'll save the combat for the next part, and I'll see you there.